This is you. Your hands are raw, the knuckles split and weeping blood from the caustic chemicals. You are on your knees in the suffocating silence of a blackened garage, the heavy air thick with the sickening stench of ammonia and sweet ether. You are scrubbing the interior of a bullet-riddled SUV with industrial-strength bleach and a stiff brush. The sickening squelch of bloody fluid soaking into the floor mats echoes in the quiet. You do not look at the dark, coagulating lumps in the corner. The smell of copper and rot burns the back of your throat with every shallow breath. You are wearing a crisp, dark blue uniform, the gold shield of a police commandante pinned proudly to your chest. To the outside world, this badge represents justice. But as you kneel in the sludge of a fresh execution, you know it is nothing more than a target. Outside, a cartel chopper squad smokes and waits for you to finish. This is your bone-crushing reality. You are not here to investigate a crime scene. You are here to erase one. You are the bagman in a badge, scrubbing the sins of the syndicate that owns your soul. Let us rewind the clock and find out what shattered your reality. 6 months ago, you were the golden boy of the Federales. You were a top-tier professional, a true believer in the nobility of the oath you swore. You were a brilliant detective who thought systemic corruption was a choice made by weak men. You lived in a sunlit house with a beautiful wife and a young daughter whose laughter was your salvation. You kicked down doors, broke up clandestine fentanyl labs, and seized the massive drug shipments the cartels pushed through your plaza. But the system is unforgiving. The catastrophic tragedy began with a single piece of paper. During a raid, you found a ledger on a dead sicario. It contained your home address, your daughter's exact school schedule, and the names of every commanding officer in your precinct who had already taken the plata, the silver. When you brought this to your captain, demanding action, he made a phone call to the very monsters you were hunting. Within 48 hours, your life was obliterated. The cartel froze your assets, burned your house to the ground, and cornered you in the ashes. The message was clear. Work for them, or your daughter takes the big sleep. You lost everything in a devastating rush of institutional betrayal. Stripped of your home and honor, you were forced into the darkest, most punishing underbelly of society to keep your family breathing. You moved your terrified wife and child into a rotting apartment in a grueling slaughterhouse of a neighborhood. You did not resign from the police force. The syndicate needed your badge. You adopted a new, ruthless persona to survive. You stopped being the righteous lawman and became the muscle that protected the criminals. You became a ghost, haunting the blind pigs and gambling dens, enforcing the cartel's iron will under the color of law. The descent was total. You collected extortion money from terrified shopkeepers to ensure the cartel's dominance. You watched your hands change, becoming permanently stained with the grime of the illicit trade. You walked past the hanging bodies of decapitados dangling from overpasses, forcing your eyes to remain dead and hollow. You stomached the sickening smell of the pozoleros, victims dissolved in acid, without flinching. The moral absolute of your past dissolved into a suffocating, blood-soaked gray. You became the monster you once hunted, a tool of the criminal insurgency rewriting the rules of the city. The ultimate test came on a blistering, pitch-black Tuesday inside a heavily fortified safe house. The air was thick with the toxic fumes of cooking meth, burning your lungs. You were collecting the weekly payout for your corrupt captain when the reinforced steel doors blew inward in a deafening explosion. A rival gang of paramilitaries had dry-gulched the operation. The room erupted into absolute chaos. Automatic rifle fire shredded the drywall. Bodies fell in bloody, twitching heaps. In the center of the carnage, a high-ranking cartel lieutenant, a massive Bruno of a man, took a high-caliber slug to the femoral artery. He collapsed, bleeding out rapidly on the concrete. There were no doctors. Only you, a pair of handcuffs, and a ticking clock of less than 3 minutes before the man bled to death. A rival hitman pressed a cold steel Roscoe to the back of your head. Save him, or you're biting the linoleum next, the gunman barked. You tapped into a dark, visceral rage. A bone-crushing desperation took over. You used your police nightstick as a crude tourniquet, twisting it with brutal force. You dug your unwashed fingers directly into the gaping wound, clamping the severed artery. The lieutenant screamed, but the blood slowed to a trickle. You were brutally tested. When the smoke cleared, the lieutenant looked up at you. You had proven your worth as a lethal asset to the Dark Authority. They didn't just let you live, they promoted you. You were forced deeper into the pitch-black abyss. You became a vital leader in the syndicate's logistics division, using your police cruiser to personally escort multi-million-dollar shipments of narcotics across state lines. You were the ultimate shield, flashing your sirens to clear traffic for trucks loaded with weapons and human cargo. The wealth flowed. You moved your family to a gated compound, buying your wife's silence with designer clothes and your daughter's safety with blood money. You began to aggressively gaslight yourself, staring into the mirror and telling your reflection that you were a necessary evil. You convinced yourself that helping one cartel establish a monopoly prevented the chaotic turf wars that caught civilians in the crossfire. You became utterly numb to the extreme violence, calmly eating street tacos while your colleagues interrogated rivals with blowtorches nearby. The horrific screams of the dying became nothing more than background noise. You were a kingpin wearing a badge, fully insulated by a pact of impunity. The darkness consumed you, rotting your soul from the inside out until you could no longer remember the honest man you used to be. The massive life-or-death confrontation occurs on a sweltering midnight at a deserted shipyard. You stand inside a cavernous warehouse, overseeing a massive transfer for the cartel's human smuggling ring. The heavy steel doors of a shipping container are thrown open, revealing dozens of terrified, emaciated migrants huddled in the dark. Among them is a young, trembling teenage girl, covered in sweat and tears. Her face is a haunting mirror image of your own daughter's. The massive cartel lieutenant, the exact man whose life you saved months ago, drags the screaming girl by her hair onto the concrete. He suspects her father of being an informant. He pulls a chrome-plated pistol, racks the slide, and shoves the weapon violently against your chest. "Finish the job, Commandante," he snarls, his breath reeking of stale liquor. "No witnesses. Prove your loyalty to the plaza." You are backed into an impossible corner. On one side is the sprawling dark empire that pays for your family's luxurious safety and keeps assassins away from your door. On the other side is the sobbing girl, representing the absolute last remaining shred of your humanity. The ticking clock thunders in your head. Your hand shakes as you take the heavy weapon. You look at the lieutenant's cruel, expecting smirk. You look at the girl's pleading eyes. You rebel. With a deafening roar, you do not point the gun at the innocent girl. You pivot and drive the barrel directly under the lieutenant's chin. You pull the trigger. The bone-crushing crack of the gunshot shatters the night. Chaos erupts instantly. The warehouse turns into a blinding storm of muzzle flashes. You grab the girl by her arm, dragging her behind the heavy steel containers, returning fire with deadly mechanical precision. You fight your way through the suffocating smoke and a hail of bullets, pushing the girl into your idling police cruiser and slamming the accelerator. You burst through the chain-link gates, leaving the Dark Empire burning in your rearview mirror. The climax resolves, but it demands a devastating cost. You save the girl. You thwarted the immediate ambitions of the brutal syndicate for a single fleeting night. But as you speed away from the burning warehouse, your cruiser's radio crackles to life. It is your own corrupt captain. He informs you that your betrayal has already been broadcast. You are not met by the welcoming embrace of a grateful society. You are met by a blockade of your own officers, the very men you trained, the men who wear the same tarnished badge as you. They do not see a valiant hero who reclaimed his soul. They see a rogue cop, a bad hat who burned the road and betrayed the cartel. You are violently dragged from your vehicle and thrown onto the asphalt. The tragic irony crashes down upon you. You achieved your ultimate goal of personal redemption, but you instantly lose your freedom. As they snap the cold steel bracelets onto your raw, bleeding hands, the horrific truth sets in. You saved a stranger's child, but by destroying your standing in the cartel, You have abandoned your own family to the ruthless machinery of the system. Your daughter's safety is gone. Your wife is unprotected. You saved your soul, only to condemn your own blood. As you are thrown into the back of the squad car, the blinding red and blue lights flashing in the rain, a lingering question echoes in the suffocating silence. In a world where the law is bought and sold, was your shred of humanity worth the price of your own family's survival? Or are you just another tragic casualty, crushed beneath the weight of a war that can never be won?